The third word we hear over and over again is about the humanitarian crisis. God, humanitarian crisis. Let's look at the real story. First of all, I can't help but laugh and cry at the same time every time I see reports of protest demonstrations in Europe over Israel's position in Gaza. And I'm saying out loud to the television set, who the heck are you people to talk about humanitarianism? The fact that you allowed 6 million of our people to be killed under your noses and said, I didn't do it. You don't have the right to lecture anybody in the world about humanitarianism. But that's Europe. Here's the truth when it comes to humanitarianism. Did any of you catch the reports of where this school was, this United Nations school? It was in a refugee camp. Now let me just ask a simple, politically incorrect question. What the heck is a refugee camp doing in the world today, 60 years later than Israel was created, which was supposedly the cause of their becoming refugees? 60 years later, and they still keep people in these disgusting places? First it was Egypt. Then they were thankful that the 6-Day War took the Gaza Strip from them. It meant they didn't have to deal with these people. And the same thing with the West Bank and Jordan. None of those leaders were mourning the loss of those territories because they knew what it meant to rule those folks. And for 60 years they've been in refugee camps. Why? Anyone who's a reporter, and if there are any here tonight, we welcome you, but I challenge you to go back and ask the city desk or the national desk or the publisher of the newspaper why they never asked the question, why are these refugee camps still there? Why have they not been dismantled? 60 years isn't enough time to build a decent home? To absorb these people into their communities, their villages, their cities, their towns? On Israel's birthday in 1948, there was a grand total of 600,000 Jews living there. 4 years later, 1952, that number doubled. And it wasn't from having lots of babies. Not that quickly. That means that 600,000 Jews struggling to survive brought in another 600,000 immigrants, refugees, homeless Jews from all over the world, and not one of them is living in a refugee camp 60 years later. They're all living normal, decent lives in homes, villages, cities, farms, kibbutzim, etc. So when we talk about humanitarianism, let's understand who's a humanitarian and who isn't. And yet we still cry. And we still shed tears. We're not happy that over 500 of them have died and a handful of ours have died. We're not happy about that. We're not celebrating that. We are simply speaking two different languages. And it's important to keep that in mind as we continue to live through the ongoing saga as it unfolds. We all hope it'll end soon. But we also hope it ends. We don't want it to end soon just because it's uncomfortable. And we all understand the sacrifices that these brave young soldiers are making, day in and day out, to protect their people, their land, their home, and us. Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav once said, "Emunah tefillah v'eretz Yisrael ein b'china achat, kulam tluyim zeh b'zeh." Faith, prayer, and the land of Israel are one test, and they are all connected to each other. We are all being tested. We are being challenged, and we must, and we will confront this challenge, and I am confident that we will face this test with success. We have to understand that self-defense is a God-given right. Jewish law enshrined in the Tanakh and the Talmud and the law codes make it clear and precise that if one comes upon you to kill you, you have the obligation to kill him first. Doesn't sound nice, but that's Jewish law. Basic human right, basic Jewish right. That and only that is what this military action is about. As we look back over our history, we know that we have had to say the Kaddish way too often. Instead, we must stand up and proclaim, Lo amut ki ahyeh va'asaper ma'aseya. I will not die, I will live, and recount the glories of God. 35 years ago, during the height of the Yom Kippur War, my Aunt Devorah gave birth in the hallway of the hospital because all the rooms were unfortunately filled with wounded soldiers. She gave birth to a beautiful little girl. And they named her Nechama, which means comfort. She now has a wonderful husband, 3 beautiful children of her own. And this summer, we are looking forward to being with them and celebrating their oldest son's bar mitzvah. We come here tonight not with any answers, but simply to share our anxiety, our concern, and our love for Israel, our unconditional love for Israel. We pray that with our help and with our love, the land of Israel will produce forever beautiful, healthy babies who will grow up and take their place in the ongoing history of the Jewish people, affirming and fulfilling the words of the prophet, Netzach Israel lo yishaker, the eternity of the Jewish people will never be broken.